This is a recording.
We are recording things and stuff.
They're kind of like pancakes. French
I like
toast,
pancakes too.
waffles. French toast is good when it's good. Like, I
Yes.
like a good French toast. I
Me
like
too.
a good pancake.
Now, do you prefer flavored pancakes or just plain pancakes with different kinds of syrup?
You know, I kind of tend to go towards blueberry pancakes with strawberry syrup.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know what it is. It's a great combination. If you've never tried it, you should go there. And when they ever ask if I want whipped cream with my pancakes,
Yeah.
for the most part, I say no, because
Yes.
you put whipped cream on pancakes, all of a sudden it's a dessert. It's no longer a breakfast.
Right. And it makes you feel weird to put syrup on it after it's had whipped cream on it.
Yeah, and you don't want butter and then whipped cream on it. It's like one or the other. You're either going to
Right.
get the butter or you're going to get the whipped cream, and I'm always going to opt for the butter and the syrup. And the whipped cream
Right.
can wait till my ice cream
Now-
sundae at night.
Do you like waffles? Are waffles good for you?
I like waffles, but I don't get waffles very often. I also
that?
kind of like crepes, but not like, I'm not really into crepes like some people. I love a good German pancake, though.
Oh, heck yeah. German pancake is the way to go.
I also like Swedish pancakes.
Not familiar.
Wow. They're like super flat and thin. It's almost like a crepe, but it's not. It's like between a pancake and a crepe.
So it's not as floppy as a crepe, but it's thinner than a pancake?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's big. Like, it fills up a full plate.
Like big?
Yeah.
Okay. I've seen those. I've never had one.
The first time I had one was in Solvang.
I really want to go to Solvang.
You should, and get their Swedish pancakes.
Yep. Absolutely.
They're delicious.
Yeah. So maybe one of these days we should go to Solvang and do a Hearst Castle thing and then talk about
Citizen Kane.
Citizen Kane at
Now-
the same time.
I will say there's a big gap between Solvang and Hearst Castle.
There is, but I
Like
mean, at
a
least we can go to
4-hour
both.
drive.
It's on the company dime. We'll be okay.
Okay. Just making sure that you're aware. It's like
No, so
it'll
what
be
it
like a
is-
weekend trip.
Absolutely. So we'll start from LA. We'll stop in Solvang. We'll do a little shimmy in Solvang, and then we'll jet up to Hearst Castle and do that, and then we'll come back and stay in Solvang again, and then we'll end our weekend.
All right. Sounds
So that
good.
way it
Sounds
feels
like
like
a
it's a
plan.
lot closer than
Oh.
it is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Hello,
See?
everybody. Welcome to Secret Level.
There we go.
I am your host, Joey Parr, editor-in-chief of GeekTyrant.com, and joining me, as always, is the magnificent Billy Fisher, who is also Spider-Man, who is also sometimes Batman, and every once in a while, Superman.
It's true. I mean,
Except
I'm
for
a
that
man
one
of many
time where he
hats.
was Joker.
that was a weird phase. I made it through, and now we're good.
Thank goodness.
Yes,
Now
it was weird.
now he's just a serial killer.
And then that explains why I'm so many different superheroes at once. Nobody suspects a superhero of being a serial killer.
That is true. That is true.
Oh, man. So, Joseph,
Yes, sir.
how are you doing today? What's going on? What's new in your life?
What's new in my life? Well, a lot is new.
Oh.
But before we get into stuff, we'll let
Ooh,
everybody
stuff.
know what we're going to talk about today, because
Yes.
this is going to be an interesting one. They're all interesting. Everything we do is interesting.
Absolutely.
In this episode, we are going to dive into the feature film adaptation of Stephen King's Misery,
Dude,
the one that stars James Caan and Kathy Bates. And Kathy Bates won an Oscar for it.
She won an Oscar. I actually think both of them should have won an Oscar. He did not even get nominated.
No, he didn't. Maybe it was
Nope.
because his role required him just to lie in bed through most of the film.
Okay, but we're going to get into that because it's all about. Okay, so we're going to get into this, not in this one, because in this one we're going to talk about a specific part of Misery.
Yes, so this
But when we get into our full episode, I've got something to talk about.
Yeah, so this episode we are going to focus on one particular scene in the movie. And it is one of the most gut-wrenching scenes ever in movie history, I think. Would you agree?
I agree. I mean,
I cannot
even when
watch
you know
this,
it's coming.
I cannot watch this scene and not cringe. Every time
Right.
I watch it, I squint. And sometimes I'm like, man, do I really want to look at it again? Do I want to turn my head away? Do I need to go to the bathroom because I know it's coming up?
Oh my gosh. So
'Cause
it
it's-
makes me sweat
Brutal.
so bad. And of course, we're talking about the lovely hobbling scene.
Yes. We are going to focus on the hobbling scene because there's a lot of drama surrounding that scene. A lot. Not only from a story standpoint of in the film, but also the behind the scenes aspect of it was just kind of all over the place because, well, no one wanted to make the movie because of that one scene.
Right.
Except for one person, the writer. But we'll get into that.
Well, so
It,
I like anytime you think of Misery, that's the scene you think of. That's absolutely what you think of. I didn't realize there was so much behind the one scene.
it's the moment in the film you're like, what is happening here? Not the,
Right.
but just the story in general, like the book and the film in general. This scene isn't just insane, and in the scene, okay, we'll get into that in a minute. We'll launch into that in a minute. But Billy asked me earlier how life was going for me. I was saying good. And usually we talk about something that we've done recently and we want to share it with you if we've seen something cool. And so I'm going to kind of get into that right now because
Let's
why
do
not?
it.
So Billy has gone on one adventure with me recently. And my brothers and I, we go on adventures all the time. And when I say adventures, I'm talking like Goonies type stuff. Like we're going into caves, we're going into mines, we are walking around looking for petroglyphs and going on these hikes off trail, not knowing whether we're going to come back alive. We don't know what to expect. It's all great fun. I enjoy it.
It is. Yes, I agree.
Now, recently, my brothers and I took a trip up into the mountains, and we heard there were a bunch of mines out here, and we didn't know what we were going to find. We were just kind of exploring the area, seeing what exactly it has to offer. We didn't plan on going into anything crazy. We just wanted to kind of survey the area for future expeditions that we might do. And we're hiking through the mountains, and we come across this little hole in the mountain, and it is just blowing out cold freaking air, like 30-degree air. And it's super hot outside. We're all sweating, but this air is just blowing out of this little hole. And we're like, oh, that's cool. We're throwing leaves in front of it, and the leaves are like flying all over the place. And then my brother gets this idea. He's like, I'm going to go inside. So my brother crawls in with his flashlight. And he's like, it's a mine. Come in. So we throw him his backpack, and we all crawl through this. You got to kind of shimmy your way through. It's a pretty tight hole. And once you get in, it opens up into this cave. And it's a mine. There's tracks in there from the rail cart, and I don't know where they were going because this hole was just embedded in the mountain. I mean, it just led to this little hole. It wasn't like there was a bigger cave there, but it led there nonetheless.
Uh-huh.
So we go inside, and at this point, we've been in a lot of mines over the years. But this, as we're walking through, we start seeing some really cool stuff we'd never seen before.
Like what?
Like old barrels, old bottles, just stuff that people left in there. There's old gloves from when people were working in there. There were helmets, all kinds of stuff. And by the way, we don't take anything from the mines. We just leave it there because,
That's spooky.
Yeah.
You'd leave stuff there.
Yeah, exactly. But as we're going deeper and deeper in the mine, we enter this cavern, this huge cavern. Like, it is massive. I have never seen anything like this on any of our expeditions before. This thing was like, the first thought that entered my head was the Mines of Moria in Lord of the Rings. That's how massive it was. And I was scared because I had never been in anything so massive. I mean, you've got rocks hanging over your head. Like, man, that could just break off and fall on me right now.
Mm-hmm.
Again, by the way, we weren't prepared to do any exploring, so none of us had any survival gear on us. We're literally in shorts and T-shirts walking through this thing. But we get to that area, and it is just crazy scary, and I'm freaking out, but I'm also excited because there's a lot of cool stuff that we're seeing in this place.
Mm-hmm.
And as we're walking through, we come to this area where this big mine kind of converges into a small cave again.
Okay.
And we're shining the flashlight on my brother as he's walking through it. And there's this, because of the light and the shadows and everything, it looked like he was walking into the mouth of a skull.
Oh, no.
And it was awesome. Like, this was real life Goonies. It was so cool. It was like, oh my, we were just like, whoa, that is so cool. Because when the light shines on this area, exactly, you got the two eyes, there's a nose, and this like mouth that looks like it's screaming at you. So cool. That's about as far as we went, though. And then we realized, like, you know what, let's not go any further until we actually have some like gear, like real gear with us. So we ended up, walking out. We survived, which was nice, but it was a fun experience, and I can't wait to go back. Maybe
so
you could
you
join
essentially
us, Bill.
started it. I next time I will go with you. I need to see this. It sounds like you started a D&D adventure in real life.
It was totally 100%. Yeah.
Oh man, I'm so jealous. That's cool as heck, man. I love those adventures. When we went out there into Utah and searched everything, it was so cool. It's one of the last really unexplored areas in the world. I love it.
Yeah, we're always finding stuff like that. But so that was
So
kind
cool.
of like my little adventure that I thought I'd share because it was pretty rad.
It is pretty rad, and I like that. Wow, it makes what I'm about to say super boring in comparison. I can't even. I can't. I'm done.
Nope, you got to
There's
share.
no way.
You got to share something.
Okay, so
I know you have something to talk about.
I do, and to me it was a major thing, but now it just sounds like I don't need to talk about that. That's dumb. So I'm about to admit something as a movie connoisseur will say. I should have taken care of a long time ago.
Are you going to
But-
mention a movie you've never seen before?
I am.
Till just recently?
Yes.
Like how recently?
Like within the last week recently.
Wow. Okay, I'm excited. I don't know what this is.
Up until this point, I've never seen the movie Casablanca.
Okay.
Never seen it once.
No, it's not.
And-
It's all right. I know it's
it
a
was-
classic, but it's all right.
But I mean, it's one of those things. Everybody's talking about Humphrey Bogart, and I realized I've never seen anything.
I thought
with
you were going to
Humphrey
say like
Bogart in it.
Shawshank Redemption or something.
Oh no! I've seen that plenty of times. That's fine. That's a good movie. But so what got me about it is because I have it from an adult perspective. If I would have seen it sooner, I probably wouldn't have thought about this at all. But have you seen Casablanca?
Yeah, but the last time I saw it was in film class in high school.
Right. Okay, so I was gone during that because I had
So
the same class you did.
Yes, but that was the
Missed
last
it.
time I saw it. And
Okay.
I mean, watching as a teenager, it was like, all right, but I didn't really care for the movie. But
Okay,
you go
so
ahead, you share your feelings.
I'm sharing my feelings on this because something hit me when I
Okay.
was watching it. They start talking about, of course, it's Humphrey Bogart. He plays, the owner of the bar. He's Rick, and it's Rick's place. It's Rick's bar, and he's waiting for Victor Laszlo to show up. Victor Laszlo is this big, a resistance leader.
Okay.
And at one point, they talk about how he's escaped from a concentration camp, and that's kind of like the main crux of the story is that
Sure.
Ingrid Bergman's character hooked up with Rick. Spoilers, everybody. Sorry if you haven't seen this, but it's just something that blew my mind because, okay, so she thinks he got killed. She was told he's killed in the concentration camp.
Yep.
He escapes, and that's when she leaves Rick. She gets back with her husband, blah, blah, blah. I was thinking about it. The movie's made in 1942.
Yeah.
While World War II is still going on. It's a movie about current events in World War II while it's going on. And to my understanding, people didn't really understand what concentration camps were, but I mean, they had to have known at some point because he escapes from one where they thought he died. So it's like, to me, it was interesting that the world knew, but the world acted like it really didn't know, kind of thing.
Interesting.
What was happening. And so,
would you recommend giving it a watch? Since I said, I have not seen it in years. Do you think it's a movie that I appreciate more now than I did when I was, 16, 17?
Absolutely. Yes. Because, okay, so we had the same movie teacher, Mr. Callahan, loved Casablanca. I was gone during the week that we watched that in film class.
If you're listening, Mr. Callahan, hello.
Hello, Mr. Callahan. Yes. So I was gone, and he always gave me crap because he was like, Fisher, you missed Casablanca, one of the greatest movies ever made. And I was
you
like,
missed a lot of classes, Billy. Let's be honest.
I did. So, continuing on. But with that, I watched it, and I probably wouldn't have appreciated it as a teenager, but I appreciate it now because now you know all the little nuances. We've seen plenty of movies to know what a good actor is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Humphrey Bogart was good, but Claude Rains, who plays the captain of the military, or sorry, the basically the police of Casablanca in Monaco.
Yep.
That guy he makes the movie worth watching.
Okay.
So if you haven't seen it or you haven't seen it in a long time, give it a watch. Good movie. Ingrid Bergman is absolutely beautiful. I mean, if for nothing else, you can just watch her for, the hour and 40-some minutes that it's on.
Sure.
It makes it good. But yes, so I wasn't in any Goonies caves, but,
You were in Casablanca.
I was in Casablanca. Good movie. Should never be remade. I hope it never is because it just wouldn't be as good. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. See,
well, thanks, Bill.
Yeah, I got you. So, are you ready for this?
Yeah, let's jump in. Let's jump in and talk about that hobbling scene in Misery, shall we?
Let's do it.
Now, I'm sure you've all seen the film, so this is the moment where Annie Wilkes finds out that James Caan's Paul Sheldon has been wandering around her house. Now, Annie has taken Paul in, is nursing him back to health, but he's starting to realize that she's a little off. And so he's looking for answers. She finds out, and she's not very happy about it. So,
no, she's not.
Poor Paul, he wakes up strapped down to his bed. Hands, legs, and he's like pleading for what he doesn't know is going to happen. He's not quite sure what is going on, but he knows enough to where he's like, Annie, whatever you're doing, please don't.
And that's okay. So that's where I'm getting at, where I think he should have at least been nominated. That guy, a lot of the acting that comes from him is in his his face. He's freaking out. His eyes are bulging. He's freaking out. But his words are kind, and he's trying to placate her into not hurting him because he knows she's capable of it. He just doesn't know how far she'll go.
Exactly.
And then it comes.
And while she's doing this, she gives this speech, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know I left my scrapbook out. I can imagine what you might be thinking of me. But you see, Paul, it's all okay. Last night it came so clear. I realized you just need more time. Eventually you'll come to accept the idea of being here. Paul, do you know about the early days at the Kimberley diamond mines? You know what they did to the native workers who stole the diamonds? Don't worry, they didn't kill them. That would be like junking your Mercedes just because it had a broken spring. No, if they caught them, they had to make sure that they could go on working. But they also had to make sure that they could never run away. The operation was called hobbling. And then she takes that board, that wooden plank,
that 2x4,
2x4, and puts it right in between his legs, his ankles. And then she picks up that sledgehammer. And she begins to just smash his left foot. And then smashed his right foot. And the way the feet just like crunch inward is just horrific in every way. It's a scene that is embedded in my memory forever. When I first saw it, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was so brutal. And I had never seen anything like that before. Like, what would that be like? This movie introduced me to smashing someone's feet in.
Well, here's the thing. That's something that's like real pain. Like, we had watched Predator before this. We've seen guys shoot other guys. But this, the way it's filmed and the way the special effects are done, makes it look not only real, but like it could happen to one of us. Like that could, like,
I hope
if
not.
you broke your ankle.
Well,
No,
okay,
like
sure.
just breaking your ankle.
Yeah.
That's what it would look like.
Well, as someone who has sprained ankles and twisted ankles on multiple occasions, I just that pain alone is pretty bad. But just realizing that the pain is brought on, your foot being smashed between a 2x4 and a sledgehammer, forget about it. You can feel the pain when you watch it. The pain, like, just pulsates through your body as you're watching that scene play out. And I've seen this movie a ton of times. It just, watching it again recently, it was just like, whew, damn, that's a rough scene. That is painful to watch. And then she's all like, after she's finished, she looks at him with these like dead eyes and is just like, God, I love you. And you're just like, what is wrong with this person? She is completely insane.
Okay. So it was this. You and I have seen this movie a ton of times.
Yeah.
This is the first time it clicked that anytime she sees or thinks about hurting someone else, she's completely getting off on it. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. It's gross, and I know why she won the Academy Award, because she's able to flip that switch from normal-esque into we've left the reservation.
Yeah.
Real quick.
It is completely brutal. And the story just takes a massive turn at this point where Paul's just like, I'm effed.
Yeah.
There's
one thing to
there's no way
go ahead,
out
sorry.
of this.
None. Oh my goodness, no. Like,
Now,
yeah.
now the thing about this, like in the book, it is different.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a smashing of the feet. So in the book, when Annie hobbles Paul,
Mm-hmm.
there's some pretty big differences.
Yes, there is. And I'm glad they did not go there.
In the book, Annie actually uses a fire axe to chop off Paul's feet at the ankle.
Yeah.
And not only that, if that's not bad enough, she then goes on to take a blowtorch to cauterize the wounds that she had just inflicted on him.
Right. I would almost take that over the broken ankles.
I was just gonna say the the smashing of the feet seems kind of worse in a way.
Right?
I don't know why, but it does. And what's crazy about that is everyone thought the chopping off the feet was the worst part, which is why they changed it for the film.
No, because when you watch movies, it's that suspension of disbelief. It's you get into the movie and you believe everything you see, but something extreme like that is like chopping off the feet. I mean, that's hard for us to imagine the pain on that, like getting our feet cut off.
Yeah.
But we've all rolled our ankles at some point.
Yeah, you can kind of sympathize with the pain that he's going through.
Right, and that makes it worse because we've all been there. We've all rolled our ankles. It hurts. But just that she gave the speech, put the block in, grabbed the sledgehammer, and he just has to sit there and watch it happen. Oh, no thank you.
But the book is also bad.
The book is bad.
It's also just the scene in the book is so bad that the original director that was hired, George Roy Hill, he dropped out of the project because he couldn't bring himself to shoot that scene.
Now, he was no slouch. I mean, he was the director of the Sting.
Yeah.
He also did like Slapshot. So he's no slouch director, but I mean,
so he, I guess, initially thought that the scene wasn't going to be in the movie. And so when he found out that, yeah, we're putting that in the movie, he's like, I can't do it. The screenwriter of the film, William Goldman, said Hill simply could not bring himself to say action when it came to that scene. It just drove him off. He's like, I can't do it. I'm out.
yeah,
But-
I mean, I sympathize with that.
But Goldman, who wrote the movie, he signed on to the project because of that scene. He thought it was an exciting scene. And he wrote in his book, which is titled, Which Lie Did I Tell? More Adventures in the Screen Trade. He describes how the scene just blew his mind, saying, I could not effing believe it. I mean, I knew she wasn't going to tickle him with a peacock feather, but I never dreamt such behavior was possible. And I knew I had to write the movie. That's what sold him on the movie. That scene was like, I need to write this movie. I need to be involved with it because this scene is just so good. I can't pass up the opportunity.
I'm glad he did because I love the movie. But
It's super well written. He did a wonderful job on that script.
yeah, it's so good. But yeah, I mean, I can see why if you don't have the heart to do that scene, you can't cut the scene because that's the part where he realizes I've either got to kill her and get out of here, or I'm stuck here and she's going to kill me.
Yeah. Well, and on top of all that, now while Goldman was stoked about the scene, obviously the original director wasn't, and the first people they asked to star in the movie weren't really on board. They didn't want to do it because of the scene. Before Kathy Bates jumped on board, Bette Midler was Bette Midler was offered the role.
Okay.
But she turned it down because of the brutality of that scene. She even said in an interview, I turned that down because I didn't want to saw someone's foot off. Even though the role won an Oscar, it was stupid to say no to those pictures. I mean, so she kind of regrets it, but at the time, she's like, I can't saw. So, it shows you right there, like, she didn't even really know what was going on in the book because she says she didn't want to saw someone. Maybe if she realized it was an axe, she would have been okay with it.
And maybe if she found out you weren't really going to cut someone's foot off, you're just going to bash it with a hammer.
But she's obviously
okay with it.
I mean, because in that original script, it was the way it was in the book. I mean, she was going to chop his feet off. That was the original version of the script. It wasn't smashing the feet in until so many people passed on it. They're like, all right, maybe we got to switch things up a bit. We'll get to that in a minute.
Excellent.
Another actor that passed on the role was Warren Beatty. He was going to play Paul Sheldon in the film. He was super interested in doing it, except for the hobbling scene. Like, that scene just completely turned him off.
Interesting.
According to the screenwriter, Beatty was open to the idea of filming the scene, but was uncomfortable with the implications. In his mind, the scene was too traumatizing for the character to ever be the same again. His thinking was that Sheldon would be a crippled loser for the rest of his life, which would make it impossible for the movie to have anything even remotely resembling a happy ending. He said the only person who ever said no, the screenwriter said the only person who ever said no was Warren Beatty. Beatty just kept hanging forever. He said, to this day, I don't think he still ever said no.
Maybe he's still waiting for the callback.
But, yeah, it's weird. It's the story, though. Like, that's the story of Paul's character. So Beatty just didn't want to end up being in this loser role. Is that kind of what he's saying there? Is that what you're kind of taking away from that, Bill?
Well, I'm taking it away from it because he feels like naturally any kind of experience like this is going to scar you forever. But he feels like there was no coming back from that. Once that was done, even if he got himself out of there, he would just be a wreck. And I think loser. I think loser is kind of the wrong word that he was implicating. I think what he was trying to say that this guy would never get back at the top of his game again.
Sure.
Because he was destroyed both mentally and physically.
Now there were a ton of other actors approached for the role. Robert De Niro, Harrison Ford, Dustin Hoffman, Al Pacino, Kevin Kline, Robert Redford, William Hurt, Michael Douglas, Bruce Willis, Denzel Washington, Gene Hackman, Mel Gibson, and Richard Dreyfuss.
Wow.
Also,
they went through a lot.
They went through pretty much every big actor at the time they tried to get. Jack Nicholson was even offered the role but passed because he didn't want to do another Stephen King movie.
Oh, you don't want to be pigeonholed into that.
Yeah.
I'm a Stephen King actor.
Yep. But that's a hefty list of actors.
It is.
Before they landed on James Caan. And his career at the time was kind of on a downward spiral.
Right.
There was this implication that he was difficult to work with, and he was kind of like their last choice.
And I'm sure this is kind of his, I've got to do something to get out of the doldrums choice.
Yeah. A lot of people during that time in the 80s, they thought his career was beyond salvation. And this movie ended up basically revitalizing his career and brought him back because he was so damn good in the movie.
Right. And he was. Like, I got to give a lot of credit to Rob Reiner, the director of the film. Rob Reiner ultimately signed on, filmed the film. He seems to get the most out of stories that a lot of people have a hard time putting together.
Yeah.
Like, he was definitely the only person that could have done Princess Bride.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
but
so
Rob
Misery
Reiner was
another
making
one.
Reiner was making these light, fluffy movies. Like when he took on Misery, it was like everyone was like, "Dude, what are you doing? This isn't your type of film, man." But he's like, "I don't care. I'm gonna do it."
Right. And he cast James Caan. There's a lot I want to go into that, but let's stick on this episode 2
Sure.
of Misery. We're going to talk about the casting and how he got the actors to play against each other. But
Yeah.
ultimately, this scene is probably the most. Even though there's other scenes in that I think are really great scenes, this is the scene that everybody remembers.
Yeah. It's the one that sticks out above everything else.
Right.
When talking about the role of Paul Sheldon, he told the LA Times, "I mean, I play a total victim. I get the crap beat out of me, and I look like I'm between 80 and death. I sometimes wondered if this was a sadistic joke on Rob's part. You know, let's get the most hyper guy in Hollywood to stay in bed for 15 weeks. I was doing something I'd never done. For me, this being a total reactionary character is really much tougher."
It's got to be rough. I mean, he was sitting down or laying down 99% of that film.
It's kind of funny too because James Caan accepted the role after Jack Nicholson turned it down, and
Right.
Caan had previously turned down Nicholson's Oscar-winning role in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird how that turned out.
How
that
goes.
Out. It's interesting.
Yeah, but how it comes down, you can imagine people in different roles doing different things, but I can't imagine those two flopping roles.
No, I can't. I cannot imagine Nicholson in Misery in that role. It is
no.
It just doesn't work. Caan was perfect for that part, and he played it perfectly. On the flip side, Caan in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, no, I don't see that at all. I don't think Caan could have been able to pull that off as well as Nicholson. While it would be interesting to see in an alternate universe what those might look like, just to see,
Yes.
I don't think it would have worked.
Man, yeah. I like it the way it is.
Me too.
That's how it should be.
But
I think that's how it is with all Stephen King kind of movies, though. The guys who play the main characters in those movies, it's really hard to imagine anybody else playing those because they seem perfect for the roles that they're given.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay, we could talk about that all day, but let's get back to the hobbling.
Because of all the issues revolving around this scene, because in this original script, it was written like it was in the book. There was going to be the chopping of the feet and the cauterizing with the blowtorch. Because there are so many issues, Reiner gave in, and he decided to rewrite the scene. So he sat down with producer Andrew Scheinman, and they took a crack at the script. And Reiner explained in the DVD commentary for the film, "We wanted Paul Sheldon at the end of this movie to emerge victorious over Annie Wilkes. And if he wound up without a foot, even if he winds up beating her and she perishes, then maybe he paid too high a price for that. Most of the people who have seen the movie say it was pretty darn painful to look at, so I don't think we compromised it too much." And I agree. It was painful to watch.
Well, definitely.
The thing,
but it's one of those less is more scenarios, you know what I mean?
100%. Yes. That's perfect way to put it, for sure.
Yeah.
The thing is, no one told the screenwriter that they had altered the scene. They did it without him. So when Goldman found out the scene had been rewritten, he was pissed off. He was not happy that the scene was rewritten without him. You got to remember, it's that scene that made him want to be involved with the movie and to write the script in the first place. And he was not included in the decision-making process or the rewriting process. So it was a complete surprise to him when he found out that the scene had been changed.
That is a big shock considering, that's all he wanted to do was that one scene.
I know. That's what he was excited about. That's what he was pumped up for. He's like, I can't wait to show this scene to people. Like, it's so good.
Man. Yeah, I mean, it worked out, though.
Yeah, it did work out. But yet, he explained that because he had no idea that people would be so unwilling to film the scene as written, and the sudden change in the script kind of hurt his feelings.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that. No artist wants to be edited, so I'm sure, that kind of hit him in the feels.
Yeah. He was pretty bummed out about that one. But in the end, it all worked out. The script was great. The work he did on the film was great. It's a shame that he didn't get a chance to work on that scene, but in the end, the scene works extremely well, and there are no complaints from anybody that has watched that movie, I don't think. I've never seen anyone complain about it other than, damn, that was rough to watch.
Yeah, a slight amount of PTSD, but other than that, it was okay.
Well, let's talk about the shooting of the scene. Because shooting that scene was not easy for people. That was a rough one.
Man.
I mean, when they finally got down to it, they knew it was there. They knew it was coming. But when it actually came down to shooting that scene, Kathy Bates is completely believable in the role of Annie Wilkes.
Oh,
no one else.
She looks like she enjoyed that.
Oh, no one else could have done that role. She was born to play Annie Wilkes. It's the best thing she's has done and may ever do. I've liked her in all of her movies, but this is the one that this is her moment to shine in darkness.
I know we're probably making a lot of American Horror Story fans angry with this, but you have to see the movie.
She's a great actress. Don't get me wrong. But this movie, this role, she's never done anything that has wowed me like this one.
Right.
Anyway, she's not very fond of aggressive behavior. And James Caan talked about her struggle with the scene, saying that she literally was crying during production. As wonderful as an actress as she is, Bates found it difficult to separate herself from the cruel acts that she was portraying.
And I think that's what made it that more it made it more creepy, that she seems so nice and she seems so caring, and all of a sudden you see the dark side and it makes it worse. It's like, I can't trust people who look trustworthy anymore. It's like they may hobble me at some point.
Yeah. The cinematographer on the film was Barry Sonnenfeld.
Okay.
Yeah. Men in Black, Addams Family, bunch of movies like that.
Right.
And he recalled that the hobbling scene, and I quote, "The hobbling scene was kind of horrible for all of us. For Rob, anything where an actor doesn't talk, it's like a huge special effect. So I remember he was sort of in a bad mood about having to do it."
Right. But it worked.
Yeah. Well, it was a bad experience for everyone. They pulled off one of the greatest brutal scenes in movie history.
Right. Yeah, and just watching it, it's just it's almost too real. It almost felt like someone's real legs were there getting smashed.
Well, that's the thing, yeah. So the effects team had to make sure these legs looked real. They couldn't look like fake legs.
Right.
So they had to pull off some incredible VFX work with having Caan's ankles shattered by a sledgehammer. A visual effects team was hired to do a lot of the makeup and special effects for the movie, including the foot smashing hammer scene. And to make the scene seem as real as possible, the team made a gelatin mold of Caan's legs and created a wire skeleton to put underneath. The wire allowed the gelatin legs to bend in an unusual manner while still holding form after they were hit.
Ugh. Oh man, did they?
But even knowing that and still watching that scene, knowing that it's a rubber leg, it doesn't look like a rubber leg. It does not look like a gelatin leg.
No. It holds
still,
that
it still
bent
looks
shape
like
too
James
well.
Caan's leg. Yeah, exactly.
Right? No, thank you.
It's
Man.
explained that the prosthetic legs that were used were very successful, but the challenges of filmmaking took a toll on them. The scene was filmed so many times that the wire skeleton began to lose some of its shape. After all the hits that it was taking, the wire became flexible, and then the legs would end up flopping and wiggling in a ridiculous way. So to compensate for the weakened structure, the effects team had to stitch a bit of fishing line through the feet. And after a foot would get hit, a team member would pull the fishing line so that it would hold its unnatural position. And this is said that it was not an easy task, and the timing had to be just right in order to make that effect work. After seeing the notorious scene where his character gets his ankles broken at a screening, James Caan turned to Rob Reiner and said, "You're a sick expletive." F word. Boom.
Oh man. But it it nails it on the head, man. I mean, because that came from Rob Reiner's mind to do it that way. So. Yep, he's the one to blame. But he's also should get the credit for making one of the most memorable movie scenes of all time.
It might be hard to believe that Kathy Bates had never starred in a Hollywood film before Misery.
But she was in Saint Elsewhere.
She was in Saint Elsewhere, but that wasn't a big Hollywood movie, Billy.
Just as good.
That was an 80s TV show. But yes, she was in Saint Elsewhere. But she won an Oscar for the role regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Most of her work before this was work that she did on Broadway. She was doing a bunch of Broadway shows at the time. And with this first big film of hers, she went on to beat titans like Meryl Streep and Julia Roberts. Julia Roberts was nominated for Pretty Woman, and Meryl Streep, Postcards from the Edge. And Meryl Streep never gets beat.
Right? Well, and you got to think about it. Postcards from the Edge was a great movie. Pretty Woman was like the hit of the year, and Kathy Bates still beat Julia Roberts out.
And at the same time, Misery was like an indie film.
Right.
Like, this was like low budget indie movie, but damn, it was better than both of those films. I don't care what anybody says. You know how I know that? Because we're never going to talk about Postcards from the Edge on this podcast.
This is the only time. So if this is what you're here for, we are done.
But during her acceptance speech, she made a joke aimed at James Caan saying, "I would like to thank James Caan and apologize publicly for the ankles."
Yep. So there's still a lot to talk about as far as Misery goes.
Yes. I mean, this is why it's a two-parter. We really dove into the aspect of the hobbling scene because, one, it's just such an amazing sequence that just anyone has seen it will be burned in their memories forever and all time.
Right. I mean, just from the beginning where he wakes up and she gives him that speech till after it's done and he's writhing in pain, it's tension. from that second. For the whole scene, your whole body is tense because you know what's gonna happen, and it's insane. You never forget that feeling.
Do you remember the first time you saw that scene, Billy?
Yeah, in the movie theater. Yeah.
And what was your reaction when you first saw it?
I've never actually fainted before, but that was the closest I've ever come. Like, everything started zeroing out for me. It was like, I was just like, I'm going to lose it in the movie theater.
So when I saw the movie,
Mm-hmm.
I knew about the hobbling scene in the book. I knew about the chopping to the feet. That's what I thought was coming. That's what I was expecting, was that. But when she put that board between his legs and then you saw that sledgehammer, my mind just started popping off on so many different directions, especially because I was really young when this movie came out. Like,
Yep.
what was it, 89? 90?
90.
90.
90.
So that puts me at like 11, 12 years old.
And we both saw it in the movie theater.
I know. And my mind as a 12, I know what's coming, but then I don't know. And as a 12-year-old, it's like, what is coming? What is happening? What is going to happen?
Right.
And then you see it. And my mind at the time was just like, it couldn't comprehend what was happening. It was so messed up that I felt confused in a lot of ways by what I was seeing. Like, wait, did I just see what I thought I saw? Like, I was second guessing myself when I watched the scene.
It's because it's so real. Like I said, we'd watched horror movies before this, and we had watched action movies, but it always seemed fake.
Yeah.
It
looks so
that was real.
Yeah.
Oh,
And as a
man.
12-year-old looking at that, you're like, what? Wow. How'd they do that? And was that real? Or what happened there? Like,
I
did they
thought it was
have to
real.
do it because they didn't want to chop the guy's leg off and for real life? So did they just like really break his ankles instead? Like, this is the stuff I'm thinking as a preteen, right?
Right. I'm on that. See, that's where I was. I was like, that guy literally sat through getting his ankles broken
Yeah.
for this movie.
Yeah.
I couldn't. Oh, man. But then, okay, so after that, so we've been to previews of movies before anybody got to see them. And I went the first night that movie came out. And then the commercials that week after it came out, they would show her start swinging the sledgehammer. And I was like, no, you're ruining it.
I don't remember that. I'm sure I could find those old trailers and stuff.
Right. I just remember that because I remember thinking, that's when I started hating trailers a lot, because I was like, you're giving away one of the best scenes in the movie to get, and I understand it's to get people to go.
And I didn't watch when I was that young. I wasn't watching a lot of trailers. I wasn't paying attention to them. I was just going to movies,
Right.
and sneaking into movies, because, like I don't. My parents did not take me to see Misery. I snuck into Misery.
Oh, mine did. Mine took me.
Oh, really? Yeah, I snuck in.
That's kind of
to
messed
see
up
it.
now.
I bought a ticket for a PG movie. A friend of mine went and bought a ticket for a PG movie, and then we walked in and watched Misery instead.
Yeah, we used to do that a lot.
Yeah.
They
But
can't kick us out now for it, but yeah, we used to do that a lot.
But yeah, as a kid, like, I still like remember that, and that the memory is just seared into my brain. And even when I watch it to this day, like, I still like remember that moment in the theater watching it play out. It's kind of a weird experience because it just kind of affected me in a really weird way. I don't know, because of how I was thinking about it back then. So
yeah,
those thoughts,
it couldn't have been that we were too young to see it.
Well, obviously we were too young to see it. My brain was not ready for such insanity.
No.
But anyway, this is our first part of our Misery podcast. We are going to have a part 2 where we just kind of dive into all the other crazy fun, cool, interesting stuff about the movie. In the meantime, follow
and the
us.
weird thing too is that they weren't even my favorite characters in the movie. But we'll get to that in the next episode.
There you go.
And granted, there's only 4 people in the movie.
It's
5.
true.
But they weren't even my favorite characters in the movie. But we'll talk about that later.
All right, sounds good. Make sure to follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Facebook at GT Secret Level. Follow us wherever you're listening to the podcast. We're on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, whatever. Wherever you're listening to the podcast, we're there. And what else, Billy?
I don't know. Just let us know what you guys,
please.
If you feel like there's a movie that you want us to go over, get the behind the scenes on it for you, we're there.
Yeah,
we
hit us
movies.
up on social media, and
please.
Also leave a review, subscribe, leave a review. We really love a 5-star review. That would be great.
That would be great.
We like 5 stars.
But if you're gonna give us a 1-star, make the review wonderful. A good 1-star is good if somebody reviews it properly. So, do what you got to do.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for some misery. And we'll be back for some more misery in a couple weeks. So,
all right.
We'll see you then.
See you then. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.